it's only going to cost you 1 million to run the yacht. Really? Oh yeah, easy.
Stars in the eyes.
Yes, exactly.
Welcome everyone, and here is the second episode of Sea Talks. Basically here, it's a podcast where we listen to the voice shaping the future of yachting. And we are today with Andy, who's been in the industry for the past 18 years and who's been a captain for the last 6 ones. So welcome, Andy. It's a pleasure to have you.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Yes,
As I like to start with, could you tell me in one word what yachting is for you?
For me, it's my career. Is what the basis of my life is based around, to have a family and to make money and to support my family. And I enjoy it because I enjoy all the aspects of it, the multitude of aspects of the industry. Yeah.
The ups and the downs.
Oh, there are many ups, downs, round and rounds, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's but that makes it interesting. And as I said, it's the people that you meet in the industry. A lot of people have got the same sort of mindset in that they want to be out there and do something as opposed to the usual day-to-day job. And that for me is a founding reason why I like the job.
Absolutely. Adventurous people, most of them.
Yes. Yeah. They don't want to be, in a building where they're looking out a fire exit and that's the only outside life they get. In the UK, they go to work in the dark, come home in the dark. I did that. And that's
didn't work.
It did. Yeah, I was young and I was an apprentice for 3 years. So and listening to people who've worked all their life for 45 years, done the same thing, and they're just counting down the days to the end of their mortgage or the end of their retirement. To the end of their bit. I'm not living like that.
Yeah.
So the yachting industry gives you that diversification and the adventure and chaos to make your life interesting.
Absolutely. So, yeah. I've been on this side as well in the corporate world for 6 months. And after 6 months, I was done. And I knew a captain offered me the job. It was like, look, we're in the middle of the Solomon Island. Just come over and try yachting. And I've been from dealing with Excel sheet all day, corporate job in my box to sailing around the world. And it was the most beautiful experience of my life.
Yeah. No, it has so much to offer, as I said, and you do find yourself doing things. It's not just sailing. It's dealing with people who are from all walks of life with more money than they know what to do with, which leads into the daftest positions that you could ever get into, doing random things.
Yeah. And so you have a family. Is it easy to deal with the lifestyle of the yachting? Or?
Families in general are not easy to deal with, and in this industry, it's made harder by being away from them. So they suffer in the back. They don't get their dad every day. Although both my kids now have an Alexa, so they call me every evening. So they can do it. They don't have a phone. They just need Alexa call daddy, and then they call me. So I speak to them every night, and you can make it work with the communications nowadays with Starlink and everything. It makes it easy. I'm not saying it is easy. It's not. My wife does an amazing job of looking after both of them on her own. As a single mum, that's the hard bit, and knowing that she's going through that.
Yeah. The improvement of communication is a big deal.
If you're not able to talk out, then it creates a lonely life, and you become unhappy. It's a big thing. I think Harvard did a study on it, and that study said, so I can go into this. The most thing is people that you're surrounded by, and they will make, the more people you surround yourself with, that will make the difference in happiness, not in money or anything else.
Even though we both agree on the fact that it's one of the most important things, I do believe that communication is still one of the most overlooked aspects of our job.
Well, and communication is the key, to the whole foundation of yachting. So you have to be very aware of how you say and what you say, so that you get the right answer back. I think it's huge. It's very difficult to do that. And I'm not an expert in any way whatsoever, but I didn't realize until I became a captain how important that was.
And being a captain, you're basically stuck in the middle of this triangle in between the management, the owners, the crew. So you stand at the middle.
Yeah. And my head spins.
Yeah. So you need to adapt how you speak to the crew, not the same way you speak to the owners, but
and with the different aspects from the crew to the management to the owner, if you talk differently. With your crew, you want to be open, you want to be approachable, you want to understand the basis of the problems if they're having any. or how they're going about their job. If you're talking to management, you know, you're going to filter down a lot of what the crew are saying because you want to give them only what they need to know to help you with your job. And so they understand what's going on. Then with the owner, you filter it down even more. So you're literally just down to, the crew are fine or they're not. Because they don't want to know. They're busy. You know, some owners will only give you 5 minutes to tell them everything. And they don't want any noise. They just want, what do you want from me?
Straight to the point.
Exactly.
Efficiency.
I don't want to waste their time. Yeah. They don't want to waste my time, but I have to let them know on the key things that will make a difference to their boat, you know, their yacht that they, you know, it's worth an awful lot of money. So, you know, how much information you give is varies depending on who you're talking to.
Absolutely.
Hugely. So yeah.
And you told me that you've been working on boats with or without management. Do you feel that when we add one layer of the management, is the communication with the owner more simple, or actually does it become more like a challenge?
Running a boat without management is extremely streamlined, but you have to have the right owner and the right captains to do that. They're trustworthy, because naturally from a crew perspective it's scary. They go, wow, the boat's not got a management company, what if, you know? And it's true, if the two captains are terrible, they'll take, you know, they'll almost have free rein to, you know, upset everyone, which we know, you know, it happens. But if you've got good captains, the efficiency increases massively. But you also have to have the money, and, you know, it all depends on how the owner wants to run the boat. But if he puts enough trust in the captains, then you can go with that management.
Okay.
And when I did this, from my perspective, we were able to, you know, manage crew, and we kept great longevity with the crew. We kept crew for a long time, you know, minimum sort of 2 years. And if the boat hadn't sold, it would have gone on for many more years, I think. But it's very hard to get into that situation, you know. First of all, the owner has to trust the captain, and the captain has to trust the owner. That, you know, it's not just one way. We have to trust that if we're in trouble, that will the owner support us, you know. And then the crew then have to trust, is again another trust issue. Can they trust the captains to know that if something goes wrong, we will handle it in the right way? And once we got up with this crew longevity, I think the crew realized that, yes, they could trust us, we could trust them, and you get a nice foundation where everything's efficient, everything runs as it should. But it's a rare scenario, and it's very hard because you have to have people on the same wavelength. They have to be in the same mindset, and they have to be understanding.
I guess this expertise in finding the right match, it's all about also having some emotional intelligence.
I think people are becoming more aware of emotional intelligence. It's being thrown around a lot more because, you know, you can be the smartest guy in the world, but unless you sort of understand how people think or work, or the reasoning behind them, you know, and you have to be slightly empathetic with it as well. You know, if you, I think generally it goes in hand in hand. Empathy and emotional intelligence are sort of hand in hand. You go, because at the end of the day, you're just, from my perspective as a captain, I want to make the crew work to the best of themselves and be themselves, not make them become something they're not. I know I want them to be who they are, and I want to mold them into a position where they can do what I would like them to do, and they feel comfortable where they are.
Understanding who they are comes from having the right question also during the interview, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And this art of asking the right question is going to allow you to understand what is their personality. So I guess the industry would benefit from having some proper guidelines on how to run an interview. What are the questions we should ask to properly understand who they are?
Yeah, no, that would be a huge, you know, advantage if you had something like that. I mean, as a captain, I've written over the years, and as I've been interviewed, and other people are, you know, and as I've done interviews, I've written a list of questions that I always use.
Yeah, could you give us some example of the question you would ask?
One question I like to ask is, when you were on your last boat, you know, did you have an altercation with somebody, and if so, how did you deal with it? You know, and what was it about? And of course, the yachting industry, being the yachting industry, being, you know, you're living and working with people, things like, I fell out with the chief stew because the pillow in the crew mess wasn't in the right place, or wasn't put in a certain way, or, you know, and you're like, only in the yachting industry are you going to get something daft, like, you know, because everyone has to have everything in order.
Yeah.
And when it's not, and so or how the, you know, knives and forks go in the dishwasher, do they go up or do they go down, you know? And so people say, you know, these
it's
sort of
that
things.
thing that, like, in itself, it's not a big deal, but every single day when you're facing this one thing, at some stage you can't handle that anymore. You know?
Because you're living and working on board, your world is then on board.
Yeah.
You forget about the real world. You forget about what is out there and how you review it. And that's not an unusual thing, because you're almost captive. You're being kept on a boat, and you're put in an environment that you are living and working in all the time. So any small changes to that world is a big thing.
Yeah.
You're in a bubble. And then something small happens and the bubble bursts and everyone gets upset, and then there's friction, and then there's chaos. So by asking the question in the interview, I'm looking for, you know, as I said, it doesn't cease to amaze me, these daft little things, but it means a lot to somebody when they're on board, and how you deal with that is what I'm looking for from the person. Like, it kind of gives you slight insight into their thinking and their rationale, which I think is important. But genuinely, it's still not a point that is a sticking point for whether I would employ someone or not. I'm just trying to gauge what sort of person they are. They might say, "Well, I picked the pill up and threw it at the chief steward." Anyway, okay. How do you want to?
It says a lot.
How do you want to deal? You know, and then they say that in a joking way, and if they said that, I'd be like, "Well, did that escalate the situation or de-escalate it?" But, you know, it's true, because people leave boats because of small things, but it's a build-up over time.
It's a build-up, yeah.
It's a build-up over time, and this is the bit that management companies won't necessarily see. They won't see that someone lives in the same cabin as somebody else, and whatever they do in that cabin upsets them, and it creates a tension between two people. Instead, what management, the owners normally see, is the outcome, the final outburst, the wrongdoing. But it's been built up over a period of time because people are, you know, not working well together. So that's and so from a captain's perspective, it's trying to explain to an owner and to a management company that those tensions were building in that way, provided the captain sees it. Because most of the time, a lot of the crew, and this is why it's important, in my opinion, to be open with the crew, that they can come to you and say, "Look, this person's really annoying me." You know.
But the same with, like, you were telling me that sometimes you ask them if you're a good leader, if there is things that you could improve. So in the communication, you're open both ways.
Yes.
For them to come to you, but also for, you know,
I mean,
open communication.
I recently had this. I did. I asked a crew member, and they asked me for constructive criticism, and I said, you know, I think they were great. They're fantastic. And then I asked them, "Well, what do you think about me? You know, what do you see from my side?" And of course, they're frightened to say anything, because, you know, it's quite a big question. I'm like, "Yeah, but I am only human. I am not going to be perfect. And you might view something I do as being the wrong thing, but and this is where the communication comes in. You know, I might say, well, I did that because of that, and think, okay, now I see why you're like that with that scenario. You know, a lot of things that happen because of something else, and that finding out what the base of the problem is generally, you know, the answer to how you move forward. Yeah, and
it's always coming to the root of the issue. You know?
And I think also the other problem you have with the industry that you don't see is you get a lot of people they've had issues ashore, or they've had problems at home, or they've come from a past where they have this, and it's sort of human nature sometimes to run away from it and go, right, I'm going to go on a different boat, different environment, and then and you know, try and forget about it. But sometimes it keeps on in their head, and they react in certain ways to certain things, or they become sensitive to stuff, which of course other crew members don't know. So it's also important that you have some idea of the background of the people that you're employing, so you've got some idea of, you know, obviously you can't discriminate, but it does give you a better idea of what you're dealing with and what you're managing with.
Sometimes we observe some patterns, and people, they will replicate it again and again.
You know, and you know,
it's like no matter from the boats. It's a matter of like them and how they deal with their own like personalities, trauma, past, and
I mean, it's hard. Everyone's got problems. Everyone's been through something tough. How that affects them later on, you know, is huge. You know, if they had trauma, the problem is this comes back down to mental health. You can cut yourself. When you cut yourself, you can fix yourself with a plaster and say, okay, I've seen that. And people can see the scar, they see that problem. But in your head, when something goes wrong, you've cut yourself, but no one can see that. And and you can't put a plaster on it unless you see some therapist or whatever. But no one's aware of that. They can't see those scars. If you saw someone, I see you've been beat in the past, you've got scars on maybe. Well, yeah, that all happens, but it doesn't happen on a physical basis. It happens on a mental basis. And I think a lot of people don't understand that there's, these problems lie deep in the head.
Absolutely.
And of course, people are frightened to tell people about it. They're like, I don't want to show you the scars I've got on my head or the ones I've got on my back. And you're getting into you're getting pretty deep here, but you have to be aware of these things with people. And if you are, you can sort of, when you see an issue, you can sort of say, how can I help? How do I make this better? And
even
also,
if it's orientating them towards a psychologist or something, like there is nothing bad with that. We live in such a stressful environment that sometimes people, they're super healthy and whatever, but the intensity of the work is gonna turn us into being more vulnerable maybe. And some things might pop up from the past and we don't realize, and we're stuck in a tunnel of working hard, but we need to pause sometime. And when we identify something, let's do the work. Let's work on that, improve ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it where people, but it can also work the other way, which is a bit bizarre. People have trauma in their lives and then they go to work and they work like crazy. They work because they don't want to go back. They don't want to deal with that problem. Yeah. So you're like, wow, this person's amazing. But then when it stops, that's when the person goes, oh no, I've got to deal with everything I left behind. Because people are complex. They're not straightforward. There's no one way to manage them. I think it's a gauge. As I say, communication is the key to try and understand what you're dealing with people, and as I said, from a captain's perspective, I always say to the crew, my door's open, I'm approachable, I'll talk like a normal human being. I'm not going to be, well, I'm the captain and I'm going to tell you what I think. And I want to listen to what they want to say. So I know how best to deal with it,
Have you ever faced a situation where you work with people that were obviously toxic for the environment, toxic for you both, toxic for you? And
I mean, yeah, as I've been 18 years in the industry, those come around. Of course they do. There's plenty of that in the industry. That toxicity comes, again, normally from a foundation of their background, of what they've, they're some of their experiences. If I'm in a position as a captain where I can hire and fire, this is where I can sort of take them aside and say, look, you're affecting everybody. And I want to help you so that you stop doing that. And I don't know how that is to help you. Sometimes people need to be either sort of guided or, allow them to explain themselves, which can help them massively just by talking it out. I understand some of the like Medair and MSOS and some of these medical companies, they have hotlines which you can call, which will give, mental health, help people in this perspective.
But do people use this kind of solution?
I know it's on offer, but whether people use it, I don't know, because some people might use it and not tell me.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we put that to the crew. When they do the familiarization, when they join, they need to know that there is that service on offer. And I think that would help a few situations. But sometimes, depending on how that person is, the best way to, I don't know. There is no best way. I can't say I know, because I don't.
Yeah, sometimes if you have the secret, share that.
Yes, exactly. I can fix you. Yeah, I know exactly what to do.
I think the entire industry is waiting for that answer.
So you have to talk to these people that are toxic and find out what is it that's causing the problem and how you're going to resolve it.
And in the first place, do they realize that they are toxic?
Nobody intentionally, in my mind, I don't think people wake up in the morning and go, right, today I'm going to really annoy everyone. That's my job today, is just to really annoy everybody. And if they are doing that, like, why are they doing that? What did those people do? So people don't do this deliberately. In fact, most of the time, they probably don't know they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's half the problem. And that's why sometimes you've got to take them aside and you've got to say, look, this is what's happening. But in order to do that, you need, coming back to my job, I need everyone to tell me that they're being like that so that I can manage that. And I think some crew don't feel like they want to talk about it because it's only a small thing, but realistically it'll start to build into a bigger thing. So the sooner you nip it in the bud, you're better. And then sometimes, you get to the point where with that person, you're saying, this it's affecting the boat to the point that, you've got to move on somewhere else. Or maybe they might not be bad, that's just how they are. And they just need to go and work with different set of people.
Yeah.
It's not their
there is no
garden to grow. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you want to move, sometimes if you've got problems there, it might not be the people that are bad people. They just they're not on the same wavelength. They don't want to, they can't find common ground. And of course, in walks, on a yacht, in such an intense environment, living together, you're not going to find that. You just have to say, look, you're getting better off going to another boat where they will probably blossom.
Yeah.
And I said, you've got to find the right garden to grow. And once you've got people and nice garden on your boat, obviously, I don't know why they're using that term, but it does. It's sort of an idea where you can plant seeds and people can grow into beautiful people, and then the boat runs well. Because at the end of the day, it's just a boat. It's the people on board that matter more than anything.
From my experience, one thing that is maybe missing is an alignment in between the crew, the captain, the management, and the owner when they identify toxic behavior. So when you identify someone that is like a drug addict, an alcoholic, and you identify that as an issue, you report that, but sometimes the management, they prefer to keep this person. Or you have a chef or a captain that harass people, but the captain like them or the owner like them. Yeah. So at the end of the day,
exactly that
keep them in industry. And that's how,
and then that
it's
just
like a
develops more
never-ending story.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
lack of alignment is
well, this happens obviously, and this is something that happens in an industry where it's not a commercial industry. They're not there to make money. They're there because the owner wants them there, because that's the sort of people they want to hang out with, and that's what makes this industry extremely hard. You've got people there that are there because the boss likes them, but yet they don't fit with the rest of the crew. So you're trying to manage those people to make them, and that's the other thing, then you're starting to try and change someone who they're not to be someone that will fit in. And it's very difficult. And then at that point, that's where the very hard situation where the captain must, using the management company, go to the owner and say, look, I know they're great. I know you really like them, but they're not doing well for the rest of the crew. You're affecting everybody on board, that I think the owner needs to know that. The owner might, and that's up to the owner at the end of the day. It's their boat, it's their toy. And that's the other problem. It's just a toy.
Like, the thing is, if we do report again and again of like one personality on the boat that is gonna harass people, be toxic, and the owner maintain them, the responsibility is on them.
Yeah.
Like they're like the CEO of a small company. Basically, the owner of a yacht is managing some people, they have manager, whatever, but they are the CEO of the company. And in many companies, on land, whatever, you identify someone that is toxic, it's your job as a CEO to remove that person so you keep this healthy environment. Yacht should be treated the same way, and it's not the case.
It's important, I think, from the owner's perspective, to allow the captain to make the hiring and firing and allow them to manage the situation on board. Of course, if they want to get involved, and sometimes they do, you can't stop them, because it's, at the end of the day, it's their boat.
I understand. I mean, I completely get your point, but to me, they have the responsibility of having the people working for them, working in a safe environment.
Yeah.
It's all about the responsibility. And when they buy a boat, no one tell them about the responsibility. I mean, in average, one boat allows 50% to leave. From like people working around, like all supplier around. So it's a big responsibility, but they just see that through the perspective of, I'm gonna enjoy myself. It's not just that.
No.
And I think they should understand that the human aspect of that is really important. They should understand they need to invest on that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, as I said, a boat is just a boat. It's a floating material item. What really makes the experience of the crew, that's what makes the boat operate properly. It makes sure that things work when they're supposed to, and it makes the difference in the experience. You see happy people around them, it makes their life better. And I find it amazing we spend so much money on items on the boat, like paintings and things that cost millions. Yet we, in the industry, we're starting to cut down what money we're spending on the crew. Not to say that if you pay crew more, they're going to get more, but if you give them the ability to say, look, over time, you work a year, you get a performance review, and we say, yeah, you're doing a great job, we can pay you more money. Well, great. They feel that they've achieved something, and it will help motivate. I'm not saying it's the overall motivator, because in my opinion, money is it's not a big. It's important, but it's not at the top of the list. It's about being comfortable in their environment and being allowed to be who they are and being able to get on with their job, with minimal, friction, and they feel comfortable and safe in their environment, So, but the money certainly makes a difference, yeah, for sure. If you go in the industry and you pay small amounts of money for a position, and people might just take that just to get into the industry, or they might just take that job because even though it's low pay, just to be on that size boat or that type of boat, and then they use that as a stepping stone. But then you've got the mentality that people are coming on board going, I'm just here to get to the next thing, and I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to do what I want to do on the boat, because they don't feel that it's that their yacht's willing to look after them, if you like. If you're paying low money, that suggests, well, we're not willing to look after the crew, we're just looking for people who will work for that. Well, don't expect, pay peanuts, you get monkeys. This is how it is.
Exactly. Like, that's a comment that I usually use when I go on like Facebook group or WhatsApp, and they're like, okay, we're looking for this amazing chef, willing to work his ass off. The salary is going to be this much. I'm like, guys, respect us a little bit, like it's a very, very tough job.
Yeah.
So if we divide the salary by the number of hours, at some stage, it's like, you're going to realize it's really, really nothing. Yeah. So
I think what they forget is they think you're paying them to do a job. No, you're not just paying them to do a job. You're paying them to live and work with a bunch of other people in an enclosed environment where things like pillows being in the wrong place are going to cause friction.
and you're buying their freedom, basically, because
you're captivating. You're imprisoning them a little bit. You could use that word. I mean, I'll give you an example. Anyone who's been in the industry long enough, they do a crossing and you're on a boat for 22 days. Yeah, tell me what the crew do when they got to the side. Do they just sort of chill out and do nothing, or do they go, they go a bit crazy? Right. Of course they do. And that's what happened. We're just humans. That's what happened. Because people do. They just want to get out and they want to stretch their legs. So you're compressing them, and by compressing them, you're creating a pressure. And in that, you want the least amount of pressure with people on board. So looking after the people and making sure you can manage them correctly keeps the pressure gauge down, and it's important as well.
So to summarize, in the next 5 years, if like one big challenge had to be solved, what would it be? Like, what should we focus on to solve some issue in the industry? What would be the first step to actually
The first step is communication.
Yeah.
The crew coming to the captain to explain the issues they've got on board to prevent the pressure building. The captain, giving the information to the management company, saying, I've got problems on board. How can you help me with this? The management don't need to know every day thing. They just need to know where your major issues lie. And an owner who should, in my opinion, he gets information enough that he knows that he has given the yacht and their crew everything that they need to do their job properly, whether that be a reasonable salary or enough leave. These things make a big difference. They do. And again, we're seeing now more and more rotation coming in the industry on different levels and when I started in the industry, to hear a rotation, I used to dream of it, but it's becoming more more and more common, which is great, because people they're getting contained. They allows them on the rotation to come off their rotation, decompress, be themselves, and then go back in, and you get happier crew and longevity from it. It makes a huge difference to how it operates. So
to be honest, in 7 years of experience as a yacht chef, the only time I was properly happy on a boat was thanks to a rotation. Otherwise, I was just working, and after 4 months working like crazy, you just can't stand anymore.
Yeah.
So even though your contract is permanent, you need to resign because you can't stand.
Yeah.
And it's not fair.
No, it's not. And doing a charter season as well is hard. It's really hard. And if even if you can just allow someone to take a few weeks in the middle of that season to take a break from it for a little bit, it makes a big difference. And then of course the crew will stay longer. Otherwise, I've seen it with back-to-back charter boats that the crew stay for an entire season. At the end of the season, nobody stays; they all go, and then they go straight into the next season with a whole new crew, and you're back to square one. You're constantly training, constantly trying to get people up to speed, and it's never-ending cycle, and that gets wearing on everybody. By offering them more leave, and you start to get people who then know they're going to get a break after a few months, which is great.
I do believe that the investment needed for the well-being of the person is actually less than the price of the turnover. And constantly having new people.
And this is it. If you put people
it's an expense in terms of money, energy, time. You would save time, you would save money, you would save everything basically if you just invest a little bit more in the well-being of the person.
Yes, yeah, and once you stop that crew turnover, you get people that know the boat. They don't just start learning. Imagine an owner comes on board and he sees these crew members who are like hunting around trying to work out how to do something. If you've got someone who's been there a while, they'll know how to deal with it. They'll know the owner. They'll know what's expected. So when the owner comes down, everything's ready. It looks good, doesn't it? But if you've got people where he was there one season, 6 months later, you've had all the deck crew change, they don't know.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then he's like, well, now I have to keep asking for the same thing,
Or it becomes a safety issue as well.
Yeah, exactly. I had the explanation with the chefs. 1 month on, 1 month off. The chefs were on their own. They're doing crew and guest food, and they are working. They're hitting non-conformities because of that.
Yeah.
That intensity. So by putting them on it sounds crazy. It really works. That intensity. They do 1 month of doing, these crazy hours, but at least it's only for a few weeks and not a whole season.
About the working hours, we need to be honest. We know it's like that,
Yeah,
we know
exactly.
like the deep blue system is going to appear red, but it's like that. And then we should get time off to compensate.
Yes.
It's all about the long run,
Once you've got one stressed person on board, that rubs off on another stressed person. And
Absolutely.
then it's a knock-on effect, and then it just goes round in a circle.
It affects everybody on the boat.
Yeah,
So we need to break this cycle of the stress spreading.
And as I said, I think it's being seen in the industry now with more rotations being more apparent.
Yeah.
And it is saving money in the long run because you're keeping people and they know what to expect. So it benefits the owners at the end of the day by investing in the crew and investing.
Looks like it's the key, because every time I'm having this kind of discussion, rotation is what comes on the table again and again and again.
Yeah, it's as I said, money was a small motivating factor, but I don't think I can do this job and do a full season. Yeah. I think my wife would probably be divorced if I didn't go home and see my kids, and my kids wouldn't know, But you also have to see it from a perspective. If the rotation wasn't there, would I still be in the industry? No, probably not.
No, absolutely. Communication, good leadership, rotation. So something is healthy.
Yeah.
That's basically, there is no secret. People are aware of that. Yeah. Why don't they implement that? Even if they know, everyone tell them. All the management companies, they know, but still they're, trying to save little money here and there when we buy crazy useless thing, if I can say.
Yeah.
So
we've just, it's crazy. We've just spent, $50,000 on a jet ski, Yeah, okay, great. But if you've got that money, then why not invest some of it in the crew or allow them to have that? There should be a reasonable budget for crew.
Oh, for sure.
And for leave. But, this is always what crew come back to. It's always the main complaint.
Absolutely. One last question for you. Do you think it would be beneficial maybe because you as a captain to drive this kind of boat, you need diploma, you need certification, whatever, when instead for the manager, we don't have this time of diplomas? No. Would it be beneficial maybe to implement some kind of certification?
Absolutely.
For managers?
Yeah. I'd never say no to, education. It's like anything. You can't just do a job without having some education or some foundation to it. And from the management side of things, people come in with their own experience. I think the management
sometimes with no experience.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I face many managers who never step on a boat and they're yacht manager. Come on.
Yeah, well, again, these yacht managers can also be assigned by owners, and they say, "Oh, I bought a boat. Do you want to manage it for me?" They know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And that's where the communication comes in. You want that manager to be able to just listen.
Yeah.
The first step in management is just be there. If you've got a manager who's not there and you can't get hold of him, useless. They have to be there, and then they have to be open to listen to what you're trying to explain to them. I think that would answer a lot of problems, before you get into education. But if you get the education, then it helps them deal with those problems and how to get around issues you have. Yeah, education in that, just a foundation of trying to explain to people they need to listen, they need to be there, and they need to, and just doing that will do enough.
As much as the manager needs to trust the people they employ, the crew, the crew needs to actually trust the manager.
Oh, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
And most of the time, we are scared of the manager.
Yeah.
Like, that if you open up to them, saying what's wrong, you would be maybe fired or whatever, or you don't feel protected at all.
Yeah.
When you're pointing like some issue, I've had some crazy things told to me by a manager. Let's say you're on a 2-month charter nonstop, working from 6 to 11, and you hear that the next season is going to be not just 2 months, but 4 months. And you bring this topic on the table, and the manager goes like, what do you complain about? I have some Filipino, they would accept to do your job for 600 a month.
Yeah.
So when you have managers saying this kind of thing to you, like, wow, there is something wrong.
Well, they're going to reap what they sow, They, if they're going to be in that opinion of that attitude, I don't know whether even education can fix that, but I think, and what they'll find is they'll learn the hard way. I think that's the problem. I think just educating people in how important it is to invest in crew is a big foundation to start with. And then once, okay, I do want it. Because as soon as someone says, I want to do well at something, they need to have some motivation. The manager's there going, I've just been given this yacht by this guy. I don't really care for the boat. I'm not gonna. They haven't got any motivation. How can you even educate them if they're not even interested? That's the big problem. And that's where then the communication goes from a position of the captain to the owner. Say, look, management's not working. We're not getting what we need. And sometimes that can be hard when you've got an owner who's like, 5 minutes, tell me what's going on. I'm talking about management. They'll be like, well, why are we, the manager's there to watch you. Do you know what I mean? There's also that. It's all like, all right, I expect him to do that job and him to do that job. But it becomes harder when, as I said, people become more distant. So management companies sometimes like, oh, well, they're miles away. We don't even see them. They're just a voice on the phone that just talks to the captain, and the crew they don't even know who they are. They don't know what they're doing. I think management companies that I've worked with, a lot of them will come on board and just talk to the crew individually, which is great. They say, how is it on board? Are you okay? That's again, and that's good education to a manager. You should go on board. They need to be, if you want to do well at doing this, you need to be there. You need to go there. You need to see them. You need to talk to them individually without talking to the captain, and just find out that, again, we're not just looking at crew on board. We're looking at, is the captain doing the right job?
Yeah.
And once you get that, once they get the picture, they can either help, assist, fix.
That's all about having a better picture, because currently I feel like in the whole industry, the role of a manager is not very clear.
Yeah.
In people's mind, it's very abstract and like, are they supposed to protect me? Are they supposed to protect the owner? How do we position ourselves like this?
With a management company, it depends on how they're involved with the owner. Like, for instance, the owner's like saying, I want to buy a boat. So they have a broker. The broker comes in and says, look, I've got these boats for sale. Which one, I want to buy this one. Okay, how do I manage this? The broker then says, well, I'm part of this company, or I know a management company. Sometimes a broker can be a part of the company. I said, we've got a management company, we'll help you manage it. And then they bring that manager in then to operate the boat. And their perspective is, right, depending on the sale, depends on, it can all begin with, okay, this yacht is, 20 million. And the charter broker say, the guy selling the boat says, 20 million, it's only going to cost you 1 million to run the yacht. Really? Oh yeah, easy.
Stars in the eyes.
Yes, exactly. So, because
they're politicians, making a lot of promises and then behind.
So you start off with an owner's, he doesn't know. He just wants to buy a boat. The broker's told him he wants to buy a boat. He's going to spend 20 million. Of course, the owner's not stupid. He's going, well, how much is the running cost? Oh, you can do this for this much money. Yeah. And I've heard this a lot. And then, but we'll manage it. So we go into a management company who are like, right, it was sold to him on 1 million. So the management then is saying, we can't spend more than that now. we have to cut costs everywhere. And then look at the crew trying to cut where they can.
Yeah.
And you've started off right from the very beginning, before anybody's involved, and then the management are running on a budget. They're on a tight budget. And that denotes everything that happens then, how the boat looks after.
If you have a tight budget, don't buy a boat. You know what I mean? Like at some stage, it's just like pure logic.
You can, somebody said to me once, an old captain, he's now broke, he's an amazing guy. You can only afford a yacht if you can fill it full of €100 notes and then burn it. If you can do that, you can afford a yacht. That's it. And that, they are just huge sinkholes of money. So if you come in, you have to have a reasonable, and you've got a budget of what you want to spend. And, buy something that's not, don't get the just don't get the thing you can just about afford.
Yeah.
You should never do that. But certainly don't, if you're going to do anything, just don't cut on the crew, because the crew will be the one who will maintain that asset and make sure it's still worth what you paid for at the beginning. And if it charters, they'll also be the people that can try and bring back that money. It all stems from the very beginning.
The crew basically on a charter vessel, they're the one that can bring you money by being good. Yeah. And they're also the one that might save you money if they maintain your boat.
Exactly. But you look after them and they'll go, I love my owner, I'm going to look after his boat. And we don't want to make it horrible for them. Nobody, if you work for someone and you look up to them, you're not going to, I don't care for this guy, and just stop drilling holes in the floor. You know what I mean? You want to feel you're part of something, and if you feel part of something and you feel welcomed into it, you'll do the best you can to maintain the boat to the best standards. Education then comes in, which is great. Where do we need to look? Where are the problems that are on the boat? That's where management can also assist the captain. Go, you're missing. You're not looking here, and you're not looking there. It's important that they do that. And then, at the end of it, the owner enjoys it. His asset is, doesn't depreciate as quickly, or he doesn't have massive shipyard fees. Just trying to repair it. And when he comes on, he's happy with, the environment he's in. He knows it's safe, and he knows that everybody's surrounded by him that likes him. They're not going to be like looking at him like, oh, I don't like you because you didn't pay me enough. You don't want to be on a boat like that. It's a leisure.
We just want to feel respected.
Yeah, exactly. But it all stems sometimes from the very outset of how much you're spending, how much has been sold to whoever bought the boat, or the other way around. Or, that's the other thing. I'm going to sell you a boat. Well, how much do we need to get it up to speed? Well, this much.
Well,
yeah.
I guess it's pretty clear to identify the axis that we should follow, to improve the situation.
Yeah, it's a key thing. I've actually just recently done another course. It's called a Yacht Owner's Representative course. I don't know if you've heard of the YORP.
Yeah.
Key. So I've done that, and this again, it stems to the communication to the owner. The owner wants to, he's starting to build a yacht. He's got a nice big, white yacht. And he drives to the shipyard and he looks at it, oh, that's a blue one. I want it blue. So he goes to the shipyard, make it blue. No. The owner thinks it's simple, let's just paint the boat.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It means you've got to then cut sections and you've got to increase the insulation, the boat, you've got to increase the HVAC on board. It's huge. So the idea of the owner's rep is like, whoa. Before you decide to do that, it's going to cost you way more than you think than just a coat of paint. And the owners go, all right. So it's actually communication to the owner.
Communication, absolutely.
Communication to the owner is that, and again, well, how much is it going to cost to run this boat? Well, you have a reasonable budget, but you need to spend the money on the crew, and then everything, it'll be looked after. And from there, once you've got a budget for good crew and allowing for, it all stems from there, really. Yeah. But it all depends on how people have sold things to other people. Like, that can make a huge difference. It's like, oh, I told them that much, and now it's costing this.
It's not just... So many owners now, they jump in and they don't have experience. We have people that get more and more wealthy, and they, instead of having this step by step, okay, I'm gonna start with 20, 30, 40, whatever, they jump straight on like 60, but they don't understand what's behind.
Yeah.
So if they just trust one person with like basically no experience from before, it's really, really hard for them to understand.
Yeah.
So the person needs to be trained, needs to be trustworthy, not making fake promise.
Yeah.
And
this is it. As I said, not just at the management level, like you said, there's your owner's representative course. No one there's no qualification for yacht owners before representative. Again, those yacht owners represent tend to be the manager as well. So at least they have a foundation for helping how to communicate with an owner and problems you get on the boat from a shipyard building cost and building boats, but just the operation as well. So what you're doing here is honestly going to be a fantastic.
Having all the standards for education that goes higher is going to solve so many issues.
Yeah. It's small things that can solve big problems, and having that resource is huge. It makes all the difference. So you can never get enough.
Yeah. I mean, this discussion can keep going. There is so many
I could go for hours. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was very interesting to listen to your insights.
Thank
obviously.
You. Thank you for having me here.
A lot of experience and very good advice that many people should listen to.
It's been lovely to be able to talk. As I said, it's a very easy subject to just go into many different rabbit holes and down many different paths. But I think where you're going with your plans with Seanergy, I think are fantastic.
We're very much aligned on the strategy and synergy and all the insight that you develop in this conversation. So hopefully it's going to make a change. It's going to be a step-by-step process, but basically someone needs to get their hands dirty to move this mess.
As I said, and from a captain's perspective, if you've got an alternative resort or a resource that you can use to assist you in your job, then I'm all for it, of course. Yeah. And as I said, you can never get enough information sometimes.
Absolutely.
That one small piece of information can change everything that you operate.
Exactly.
And sometimes people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thanks again. It was a pleasure to have you here. We really hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we see you soon.